They see Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi's visit to India, where she bowed at the feet of the Dalai Lama, as a provocation. Perhaps the Chinese understand that this is actually a British imperial game, not an American game. Perhaps they don't. Perhaps the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, understands even better than the Chinese the British game that's being played here and the British manipulations of key people in the Bush administration, starting with Vice President Dick Cheney, including George Shultz, the key policy architect of the Bush presidency. On the Democratic Party side, perhaps they understand that Pelosi is a pawn of British corporativist fascist agent Felix Rohatyn. We also know that both Russia and China viewed with alarm the visit last week to London of France's President Nicolas Sarkozy, in which he proclaimed a new entente cordiale between London and Paris. Now, the Russian leadership, the Chinese leadership, others around the world understand perfectly well that it was the entente cordiale that laid the basis for the Balkan Wars that led immediately into World War I. So in effect, Sarkozy came hat in hand to London to announce that he was prepared to align as an agent of London to provoke a new world war targeting Asia. The idea this time around is for Europe under British domination, for the United States under British domination, to be a military alliance to wage war against Asia, and for that war to be a bloody horror show, which will go on for a very long time and bring on a new dark age in which a vast majority of the human race is wiped out. It's in this context that people should pay particularly close attention to Al Gore, who is attempting to position himself to be the actual Democratic Party presidential nominee in the aftermath of a bloody battle between Obama and Hillary Clinton. Already Gore, in conjunction with Felix Rohatyn and others, are attempting to put together a block of superdelegates who will remain pledged to Gore and will not vote for either candidate on the early ballots if we still have a deadlocked Democratic convention, so that no candidate among the Obama or Clinton choices can actually win a majority. And ultimately, both will have to step down bloodied and battered and make way for an alternative, in this case, Gore positioning himself. Now, anybody who's followed Gore's recent career and his pivotal role in the global warming hoax will have figured out by now that Gore himself is a leading agent of the British Crown. He openly boasts that his close friend is Prince Charles. He shares the worldview of Prince Philip because they both call for a massive population reduction as a top priority. And now we have the spectacle of Senator Barack Obama embracing Al Gore. Now, Al Gore is known and hated throughout Africa for being one of the worst genocidal racists when it comes to the African continent. Gore was responsible for running a campaign to prevent low-cost aid drugs from being delivered to Africa. And therefore, he has the deaths of countless Africans directly on his hands. And now we have Senator Barack Obama announcing that he considers Al Gore to be one of his most important allies and advisors, and will give Gore extraordinary powers if he, Obama, is elected president. Well, that's not exactly what either London or even Al Gore have in mind. And this is something that Obama and his followers will probably figure out sooner than later. Obama is slated to be brought down, and his only political task at this point is to destroy Hillary Rodham Clinton. This will open up a range of British options. A Gore option on the Democratic Party side, a McCain-Bloomberg option on the Republican side, where Bloomberg would step in as a leading British corporativist and would be responsible for more power over that administration than even Vice President Cheney has enjoyed over our resident lunatic president, George W. Bush. So the British have a game in Washington, a game to destroy the United States from within during this year, to pave the way for a kind of corporativist fascist regime that will align with a Europe that's been unified under a single dictatorial president. And the first prime candidate for that is Tony Blair. So that you will have a transatlantic war axis targeted against China, Russia, and India. And we will see a third world war that will go down as the greatest war, the most genocidal war in modern history. All of this because the British recognize that their entire post-Bretton Woods financial system has already crashed. It is already a dead man walking system. And therefore, as they did in the 20s and early 30s, they will turn to fascism and war as their solution to the Depression. The world is waiting to see whether the United States will return to the same principles of the American system, the principles that Franklin Roosevelt used to get the United States out of the Depression and to marshal the resources of this country to defeat fascism in Europe and Asia. So we are at a crisis point where the only viable answers to this crisis are those being posed by Lyndon LaRouche. Go to the LPAC website early and often. Look for daily updates. Study LaRouche's writings. Find out what happened at the 1932 Democratic Convention and see how the same Wall Street, City of London crowd is attempting to use their current vice grip over the Democratic Party apparatus in order to destroy the United States from within. This is a very dangerous situation that we are living through right now, yet there are always profound answers to address these kinds of grave crises. And in order to assure that those answers are implemented, you've got to turn continuously to the leadership of Lyndon LaRouche and key off of what you find on the LaRouche Political Action Committee website. Follow those guidances. Fight for those policies, beginning with the Homeowners and Bank Protection Act and all of the accompanying policies that LaRouche laid out in his memo on the solutions to the crisis. And this country can survive and prosper and bring the rest of the world along with it. If we don't win this fight in the United States over the immediate weeks and months ahead, however, we are plunging headlong into a new dark age in which future generations will have very little to live for, starting with the generations alive today that are looking forward to being the leadership of the next 50 or so years on this planet. So this is our fight. This is a critical moment. The world cannot be saved from a plunge into a dark age and war if the United States is not leading that fight. And that's the fight that Lyndon LaRouche is leading here in the United States. So on that note, let me sign off. This is Jeff Steinberg. Again, it is today, Monday, April 7th, 2008. This has been the LaRouche Political Action Committee Weekly Report. Stay tuned again next week.